I would dare to say that what we did is the most complicated type of game that you can choose to make. Embracer had, I believe it still has, the idea that Lars, who is a CEO, is giving the studios a lot of freedom. So we had a lot of trust and we could do basically whatever we wanted.
Hello and welcome to the Game Business Show with me, Christopher Dring. Today we chat to Daniel Vávra, the creative director and co-founder of Warhouse Studios, the team behind the monstrously successful Kingdom Come Deliverance series. If you're new to the Game Business Show, we are a new publication all about the business of video games. We do 2 shows a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday, covering all the latest developments in the video games business. We also have a newsletter and regularly release bonus pieces for you to watch, listen to and read. If you would like to make sure you don't miss a thing, head to thegamebusiness.com and stick in your email. That way you won't. But hello, Daniel. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Well, congratulations on the early sales, certainly, of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I saw it did 2 million units in 2 days. It seems to have gone down very well. Has it met your expectations?
It did. Actually, my expectations were very, very precisely almost identical to what actually happened. I made some predictions, and initial day I missed by like 90 copies.
90 copies?
Yeah, well, 900 or something, 90. So my expectation was something, and it was a couple 100,000, well, almost, and I missed the expectation by 90 copies.
I think I've got it wrong. It's 2 million in 2 weeks. It's still amazing. But do you think you should become a games analyst? I think we could do some accurate predictions about the market.
I don't know. I had numbers from the pre-orders and comparison with first game, so it was quite easy, or it was logical to extrapolate the numbers from the first game and stuff like that. So it wasn't that hard.
Is anything about the launch that surprised you? Is anything you didn't see coming?
I was a little bit afraid if the game is good enough. Of course, you are never sure what people will think. The initial news were good. Like, there was a lot of people playing it in some test plays, and some journalists let us know what they think about the game, and we did some test reviews and stuff like that. So we knew that it's not going to be bad, let's say. But generally, I'm very, very happy and surprised how much some people praise the game, and it's getting better and better after the release. So a lot of people say that it's the best game they ever played and stuff like that. Every day I had a lot of messages. I played 150 hours and it's the best game I played in the last 10 years and stuff like that. So that's what I didn't expect it that much. It's much more than what happened with the first game. So I'm very grateful for that, actually.
Well, it's reassuring to see it do so well, particularly in this market where big games, you think it'd be. I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, was such a hit, so successful. I would have predicted this would do well, but we're in the market where Star Wars Outlaws didn't do what was expected of it, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and so many big games just for some reason not finding the market. The market seems difficult to predict. So I was so well done for being so close to your estimates.
Thank you.
It obviously reviewed well, pretty much high scores across the board. There were a couple of mid-level scores. I think you were a little disappointed in them. But does that hitting that 90 Metacritic number, does it matter as much as it used to?
It doesn't. But it is important in the first days, of course. So because the people look at those numbers and then judge if they will buy the game or not. But generally, when there are Steam reviews and user reviews, it's, for me, and I believe for many people, it's much more important then. So generally, Steam reviews are more important for me, and they are even better. So currently, we are like 93% or something, which is great. It's awesome. Times have changed a lot. It's a little bit different than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I guess with Steam reviews as well, they reflect all the changes you make to the game, whereas critical reviews are very much, the time it comes out. What do you think it is about the series that has, resonated so well with players? Because it started off, I think you said the second game was what you wanted the first game to be, that was your objective, but the first game really won people over in a big way as well. So what is it about it that's been so enticing?
I'm really actually surprised that so many people are surprised by the success of the game. I since the beginning, I was absolutely sure that it's a recipe for success if we do it right. I like similar games. There are very few of them. For some weird reason, nobody makes them anymore that much. So generally, we are in the same genre, let's say, as Witcher or Red Dead Redemption games. Actually, we pitched the game to publishers as Red Dead Redemption with a sword 14 years ago. So generally, it's a strong story, but at the same time, big open world, a lot of freedom for the player. And the story, which is very important, and that's where a lot of games today fail, in my opinion. The story has to be good, by which I mean cool characters that you can relate to, and humor, and something they can kind of relate to and feel that it's them. And many games today, when they have a story, it's just like some fill-in, some random bullshit, or they try to tell the player some message or something. But usually, there are very few games like that. And every time such game is published, it becomes very successful. So it's kind of weird that nobody...
Yeah.
What do you think people make them?
We get stories like that in film though all the time, right? It's I think I know what you mean. Any theories as to why you don't get quite so many games like this? Is it cost?
I have a lot of theories. I have a theory about it, of course. It's probably a little bit controversial, maybe. But generally, if you look at the movies, at least in the past, Hollywood studios are based very differently than games industry. You have producers that choose some script, and then they kind of try to find money, and they assemble the team, and they give a lot of control to the director. So basically, the person who controls everything is the director and the producer. And they give chances to even very young and sometimes even unexperienced people. So I don't know, Bryan Singer was very young when he did first X-Men, for example. And they give him a very important franchise, reboot of superhero movies, and he was a young director at the time. So Hollywood was, at least in the past, was willing to risk and try to do new stuff with new people. And they knew that it's about good director rather than some committee. While in games, you have a company that's making games, and there is a board of people who are deciding stuff. And director or writer is just one of them, and very often doesn't have the final word. So there is much bigger risk than it will become some basically corporate product rather than the piece of art.
Yeah.
This environment also kind of repels creative people a lot. So and still for a big game that similar to ours or RDR or whatever, you need a lot of money, a lot of resources, much more than for a typical movie. Let's say today, you can say it, and it takes much longer. So you can shoot a movie very quickly, and then there is a lot of post-production, of course, but generally you assemble the small, quite big team, but for a short time. While in games, you have a large team for years. So this work for hire that works in Hollywood doesn't work in games industry.
I see.
It comes all from that. And also, and that's the controversial part, a lot of people think that the cultural wars, they are here. But generally, a lot of people think that it's some evil management that's forcing the creators to do something. But I would say that it's the opposite. It's coming from the creators, actually. I would even dare to say that some companies are not liking it and they don't know what to do about it. But generally, we can see it now even in the movies that they are a little bit, or sometimes a lot, kind of for a non-existent audience, I would say. Even in Hollywood, they are currently making movies sometimes for non-existent audience. And if you look at the old movies from the 80s or 90s, I don't know, Spielberg movies like E.T., Extraterrestrial, it's set in some small town with quite normal people. Everybody can relate to them. They are behaving like normal people from small town. And when you look at a lot of movies today, they are about people from California, rich people from California very often, that have very different problems that normal people have. So there is this kind of difference between what, basically, I would say that the creators are making movies about themselves, or they are using cliches that they see in other movies, and they kind of stopped doing movies about regular people that are still existing in the majority of the world, USA or whatever. So I would love to see a movie from Montana, for example, and tell me Sam. I don't know about any movie from Montana. And when there is Sam, I usually like it when there is not, when it's different setting and stuff. And the same can be applied to games. When you look at the games from the 90s, the scale of topics and different genres was, I would dare to say, larger than it's today.
Well, certainly from the AAA space, certainly. I guess the risk of these AAA games are so high. You know, you got 250 employees now, right?
Yes.
You've been making the game for 6 years, or was that how long it's been in development for? I imagine that's
it's very tough, yes.
Yeah. So how have you got away with it then? How have you been able to say to Embracer and Pioneer, Koch, and all those sort of people, you know?
Actually, Embracer had, I believe it still has, the idea that Lars, who is a CEO, is giving the studios a lot of freedom. So generally, we had a lot of trust and we could do basically whatever we wanted. So there was almost zero outside influence on the creative decisions on the game, which is great if it works and when you are not insane. So, I understand that the corporation wants to have some control over the final product when it invests a lot of money, but generally we had a lot of freedom and it worked.
Yeah, well, and I guess you've got a proven track record. Well, but I tell you, it's obviously 2019 it started development or something like that. And you had the lockdowns, like you started making the game and immediately COVID hit and you were locked down. How was that experience going through sort of early development when getting to the office wasn't always possible?
It was weird. It was definitely probably a slowdown. Initially, it was very problematic, but then a lot of people learned to work from home and it's somehow working. I was working from home in the final stages a lot because I was playing the game, reporting bugs, and for that you don't necessarily need to be in the office that much. But generally, yeah, it was a slowdown definitely, especially in the beginning when you didn't know what's happening and if it's end of the world or not. But generally, the game is very complicated. I would dare to say that what we did is the most complicated type of game that you can choose to make. It has everything other games have, and sometimes even more complicated than other games. So it's an RPG, but we have a combat system, we have a simulation of people, we have a large open world with as good graphics as possible. We have mini games. Basically, some part of our game could be standalone games on mobile phones or something. So it's really insane amount of work, very complicated to kind of put it together and make it the final product.
It's interesting. There's a lot of conversation around AAA, and I think it's because we've had a bunch of AAA flops recently, and around that, whether or not that business even works. But then obviously something like this comes along and it proves that it can. And that's not really a question there, but it's I think it just shows that you know a lot of games lately have been really focused on one or two features and have tried to do those features really, really well to be able to make things on a budget. And you know, I've read the reviews. I've not played the game yet, but I've seen so much of the game through stories on social media about comedy skits from what guards are saying and all this kind of stuff. These things used to be, everyone was making these games at one point, and now it feels like people are starting to pull back. So you are proving that there is no one way to approach this.
I have to say it's kind of weird for me as well, because when you look, for example, at the comparison of old games and new games, which is very popular on YouTube now, like look what this old RPG could do and what the new one cannot. And sometimes I'm quite surprised because those features that are missing in the new games are actually not about assets. Assets currently, I would say, are the most expensive thing to create the models that are much better than they were before. But to program a feature where, I don't know, arrows don't disappear when you shoot them, it's very similar to 20 years ago. If it worked in 20 years ago, it should work today. So nobody cares about it. It seems to me, I guess. And we do have such attention to detail. We know that people like it and it works. And it's kind of surprising to me that nobody cares about such details anymore. It might be because the games are really much more expensive to make and the asset creation is very complicated. But then maybe it's about the focus of the people in charge that they will kind of pay attention to such details and they don't. I don't know. It's weird.
Let's talk about the studio, because obviously the studio's doubled in size over the course of the game's development, almost. Have you had to change how you operate? Has that brought a cultural change? It's quite a big jump in numbers.
There's much more bureaucracy. All those sayings that when you hire more people, it doesn't mean more work are actually true. Everybody knows it who hired more people. It's much more bureaucracy. Some of the things get even more complicated than when you have fewer people. When you know everyone, you can just do stuff by talking to people, and all of a sudden you have meetings for everything and schedules and plans and everything. So it's much more complicated. And it's definitely a slowdown, but I don't know the recipe, how to make it less complicated. It just goes with the size of the project, I guess.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of AAA, particularly new ones that are starting up, sort of try and keep the core team lean and using a lot of outsourcing, or at least that's what everyone's saying. I don't know how people are actually doing that at the moment. But I think they often say the same thing. It's nice when you can just walk up to people and see over their shoulder what they're working on and stuff. And there's that. And I guess you've gone from one to the other. But if the product at the end is still working, then I assume you're still capturing a bit of the magic that you had before.
Maybe it's also sometimes, and I'm just guessing here, when you have a company that spends $200 million on a game, they trying to kind of do a lot of versions, and when they are not happy, they start from scratch and stuff like that, which makes the games more expensive. Maybe if they will just make more $50 million games, 3 would be flop and 1 will make money, maybe. Yeah. They are so afraid about the potential risks, that they spend a lot of money on everything and they iterate too much, I would say. And then when they could miss the ideal release date, times change and people don't like this genre anymore or stuff like that. So make it in faster, cheaper, and with more risk could solve some of those issues.
Yeah, well, I think hopefully. I've been speaking to some investors in the last couple of weeks, and they've been saying that they're backing companies that are not looking for those bigger budgets. And I don't mean indies, but sort of AA. I don't know what you describe them as. People making big games, but on smaller budgets, leaner, faster. One of the things you mentioned there is, you make a game that you think would be popular now, and in 4 or 5 years, trends have moved on, the market shifted and changed, and then you're difficult to react, and it just feels a bit safer. Well, actually, I will ask you about that, because obviously we've seen lots of AAA studios struggling, simply closing. Embrace, of course, your parent company's had some challenges. Hopefully we've seen the back of a lot of those. And I know you've been following the situation. Do you have a view on it from your side? I know that you've had success. You probably feel quite stable in comparison, but what do you make of what you've seen in the market?
So it's just a little bit weird and it's hard to judge from here because I am not that much aware of the situation in the United States. But I guess that with the success and during COVID, everybody was doing so great that the expenses grew up too much, and now it has to cool down a little bit. So some cuts are necessary. But generally, I don't know if the industry is doing bad. It's just it was spending too much, than necessary, and the good times have ended, let's say. So now they have to adjust it again. Yeah. But I would say that such situation is good for the industry. It's of course it's bad for the people who lose their jobs and stuff. But generally, it will clean the waters, make people think about efficiency a little bit more. They will change directions with genres and stuff like that. They will kind of look at the industry with some fresh ideas, let's say, hopefully. So hopefully the things we are talking about will change, that there will be more games that people want, more risk will be taken and stuff like that.
Yeah, sort of. And I guess that's going back to what you said before, which is people making games for gamers as opposed to necessarily making games for themselves. And even though that's a lovely idea, it's not always the most financially sensible one. And it's ultimately, you can spend a long time making something that the audience doesn't react to.
Hopefully. And hopefully maybe some people who kind of lost the spirit because of how industry works will return or start new companies and start to try to do new stuff. I would really welcome some fresh air and new stuff.
I think I go along with that. I think you look at the stuff that did well last year. It was, stuff that either we hadn't seen before or we hadn't seen for a long time. People bringing back stuff like Space Marine 2, for instance, was a sort of game I hadn't seen for a while like that. And then I look at the things that didn't do well, and it was the stuff that might have been pretty good actually, but it'd been done before, and it was. And I guess when people got so much stuff they can play and watch and listen to or whatever, if you're going to try and convince people to play your thing and engage in your thing, you've got to give them something to get excited about, right? Rather than say, hey, this is like the other thing you like. What's your long-term goal for Warhouse? I mean, you've got to a certain size. You've just released this big epic game that's done so well, and is it to continue on this track, or are you where you want to be? What's your ambition now?
I want to rest a little bit. It was really tough. I had some serious health issues last year from all the stress and stuff like that. So I really need to slow down a little bit. I have a lot of ideas what to do. Time is short. It really annoys me that the games take so much time to do, because I have more ideas than I have time, definitely. So there are a couple of projects that I would love to do, and I would love to prepare them properly so it's not as chaotic. I hope that maybe AI revolution will kind of help with this, that in the future we will not be replaced by AI, but we will be helped by AI a lot. So a lot of the things could get easier and faster. I hope that it will happen, and it will be great if this would happen. So generally, I have a couple of big ideas that I would like to make that will require a lot of time and preparation. So maybe I will focus on those. Of course, that there are some DLCs for the KCD2 and stuff like that, but that was already announced mostly. So generally, in the far future, there are still a couple of projects that I would like to do, and in my opinion, which have as big potential than KCD.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't expand the team further and just have two projects on the go at the same time? Is that not how you'd work?
I can't speak about these things, I guess.
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, well, I'd say congratulations again on the game being so successful. And it's a really difficult market to succeed in at the moment. And although it's an established series and it's obviously something that people know and love, and you've got a big audience for it on Steam and the console as well, then it makes sense to. You launched it on Switch. You launched the original game on Switch recently, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. How was that? How was that experience?
Well, it was done by Saber. It wasn't done by us mostly. So
did you find? Sorry, I'll rephrase the question. Did you find that because it's interesting? I spoke to Firaxis recently about Civilization on Switch, and they said actually the people that play it on Switch are often the same people that play it on the other platforms. They want to take it on the go with them. And I didn't know if that did you find a new audience, or was it the same audience?
I don't know. I don't know actually. I didn't have much numbers about it, but I have to say that I'm super surprised how they managed to squeeze it on the Switch. Initially we thought that it's impossible, and they did awesome job, and the game is quite fine on the Switch. So that's a miracle, I would say, that they happened to make it possible on the Switch. But judging from my own experience, also I have a Witcher on Switch, so my wife could play it. So generally, it's something as you said.
Well, excellent. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure, and good luck with the game and having that rest and whatever the big exciting projects that might follow.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
And for everyone at home, that is it for the Game Business Show today. If you'd like to hear more about what's going on in the games business, make sure you never miss a beat, head to thegamebusiness.com and join our free Substack. Until next time, thank you for listening. If you could be the creative director of any other game studio, which would it be?
Does old studios count as well?
Sure. Alive or dead?
I would like to be part of the initial Fallout 1 and 2, maybe.
Greatest album of all time?
Ooh, I listen to a lot of black metal. I like Enslaved, for example, a lot.
Do you think we will all be streaming video games one day?
Yes, in some horizon, yes.
What's your proudest achievement?
Probably this game. And my kids, of course. My wife, if she will listen, it has to be my kid.
Will Nintendo Switch 2 outsell Nintendo Switch 1?
I would rather say no.
Are game subscriptions a good or a bad thing for the industry?
It's okay. I would say it's okay.
PC or console?
PC.
And what is the greatest game of all time?
Original Fallout, Witcher, first RDR, Laser Squad.
Huh?